So imagine you buy a book, right? You peel off the shrink wrap, you flip it over, and the back cover gives you this very specific, honestly kind of unsettling warning.
Oh, yeah, it's wild.
Right. It tells you that the last page will not explain the story you're about to read.
Yeah.
Instead, it's going to reveal what this book has been secretly doing to you since page 1.
Which is just, I mean, it completely shatters that fundamental contract we have between a reader and a text.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you usually think you're the subject acting upon an inanimate object, but the book just announces right up front, like, no, you are the subject being studied here.
It's so creepy. But that is the exact premise of this highly unusual, almost cryptographic text titled, appropriately enough, This Book Has Already Read You.
A very fitting title.
Yuri. And today, our mission for this deep dive is to decode this thing. We're digging into a really fascinating stack of sources. We've got the book's internal construction key, excerpts from its canonical edition, and the strange digital footprint of its really elusive author, who goes by the pen name Claire de Voyant.
Right, the mysterious Claire.
Yeah. We're going to figure out how a book can be engineered not just to be read, but to actively dismantle your assumptions as you turn the pages.
Which is just an incredible architectural feat. And, you know, to understand how this literary puzzle actually works, you can't just look at the pages. You really have to understand the mind of the architect who built it.
You have to look at Claire.
Exactly. You have to look at Claire.
And from what I can piece together from her public profiles, like looking at her Goodreads page and her blogs, her bibliography is, on the surface at least, completely contradictory.
Oh, totally all over the place.
Right. Because on one hand, she's written this seemingly very basic, trendy book called 200 Minimalism Quotes.
Yeah, kind of standard coffee table stuff.
Exactly. But then she's also deeply invested in analyzing fairy tales.
Yeah.
She wrote the introduction to this collection called Reimagined Tales, where she uses this very intense critical feminist lens to dissect classic children's stories.
Right, looking at those enduring themes of power and gender and violence.
Yeah. So what do you make of that split?
Well, what you start to see there is her obsession with structure. She's looking at stories we think we know perfectly well, you know, these comfortable cultural tropes that we just pass down to our kids without thinking. And she's hunting for the unsettling bones underneath them.
Huh. The bones underneath.
Yeah. She's stripping away the magic and the romance to expose the hidden narratives that have survived centuries of retellings. But, I mean, that is actually just her hobby.
Wait, that's her hobby?
Yeah, if you really want to understand her obsession with the structure, you have to look at her day job.
Okay, lay it on me. What is the day job?
So she is the curator of an investigative archive in London called Reconstruer X, which translates to Reconstruct X.
Okay.
And this archive is dedicated to investigating these wildly enigmatic, highly controversial 20th century figures. Like, we're talking about people who operate right on the edge of the impossible.
Like who?
Well, people like Ettore Majorana, the brilliant Italian quantum physicist who just, you know, vanished without a trace in 1938.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Or Padre Pio, the famous mystic. Or, and this is perhaps her most famous subject, Gustavo Roll.
Okay, I've definitely heard of the physicist, but who is Gustavo Roll?
So he was a wealthy antique dealer in Turin, Italy, lived through most of the 20th century. And for like 50 years, he hosted these super exclusive salons for the European elite where he performed what he simply called games.
Games. Like parlor tricks.
Well, we are talking about things that seemingly defy physics. Cards changing suits right in front of your eyes, objects passing through solid matter, reading the contents of sealed books.
Whoa.
Yeah, the filmmaker Federico Fellini was obsessed with him, said he was unforgettable. And the French poet Jean Cocteau famously said Roll would only be credible, quote, the day after tomorrow.
Wait, so was he a magician? Like an illusionist?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, and that is exactly what Claire's archive is trying to figure out. But, you know, she isn't looking at Gustavo Roll to write some sensational, mystical biography.
Right, she's an investigator.
Exactly. The archive uses this incredibly strict, almost clinical three-layer methodology to investigate him. It's entirely designed to strip away the myth.
Okay, so how does that work in practice? Let's say, for example, we take that story of Roll passing an object through a solid table. How did the archive handle that?
Right. So layer one is the document. This is what exists totally independent of anyone's narrative. So do we have a photograph of it happening? Do we have the physical object itself?
Physical proof.
Yeah. Do we have a contemporary police report or a scientific measurement? And if the answer is no, the document layer is just declared empty.
Wow. Okay, so it's just the cold, hard, physical evidence, nothing else.
Exactly, nothing else. Then you move to layer 2, which is the witness. This is where you bring in, say, Cocteau or Fellini, the people who are actually in the room.
Right, the eyewitnesses.
But the archive doesn't just blindly believe them because they're famous. The witness testimony is weighed strictly for coherence. So do multiple unconnected witnesses describe the exact same mechanics of the event? Or do their stories conflict? Yeah, they are treated as flawed recording devices, not, purveyors of absolute truth.
Which leads to layer 3, I'm guessing.
Yes, layer 3 is the reconstruction. And this is the explicit working hypothesis based only on the friction between the document and the witness. But here is the most crucial part of this entire methodology.
Okay, listening.
What happens when the documents are silent and the witnesses are unreliable? Most biographers, or honestly most human beings in general, will subconsciously invent a story to bridge that gap.
Right, because we hate unresolved mysteries. We just want the narrative to make sense.
Precisely. We want to connect the dots, even if we have to draw a few fake dots ourselves just to make a picture.
Yeah.
But Claire's archive refuses to do that. When they don't have proof, they don't invent a bridge. They formally declare a GAP, like a stated, deliberate blank space in the official record.
You know what that reminds me of? It's like an archaeologist who digs up a shattered ancient Greek pot. You know how you go to some museums and they filled in the missing pieces with fake color-matched clay just so the pot looks whole to the tourists?
Yes, exactly.
It's a complete illusion.
Yeah.
So Claire's methodology is like an archaeologist who adamantly refuses to use the fake clay. She mounts the jagged fragments on wire and proudly displays the empty space, basically saying, look, this is exactly what we don't know, and pretending we do is just a lie.
That is a perfect analogy, and she guards those jagged edges fiercely.
I mean, I love the fake clay analogy, but honestly, I still kind of can't wrap my head around this career path.
No.
You're telling me someone who analyzes magical fairy tales suddenly pivoted to cold, hard, heavily documented investigations of Italian physicists and mystics. Like, those feel like two completely different brains to me.
On the surface, absolutely, I get that. But if you look at the mechanism driving both of them, they are identical. Yeah, whether she's analyzing a fairy tale that, smooths over historical violence with a happy ending, or a mythic legend building up around a guy doing card tricks in Turin, Claire's deep-seated drive is always to dismantle the official story.
Aye.
She wants to separate the actual document from the unreliable witness. She wants to highlight the fake clay we use in our own minds. And that exact philosophy, forcing people to confront how structures and inherited narratives dictate their understanding, that is the entire foundation she brings into designing this book Has Already Read You.
Okay, so if Claire spends her life refusing to fill in the missing pieces of history, how does she force her readers to experience that same, frustrating, jagged emptiness?
Well, that's where we get to the book itself.
Right. Let's get into the actual anatomy of this book because it is wild.
Mm-hmm.
So we know from her leaked private construction rolls that the book is built on exactly 100 statements and 100 images. And the back cover practically yells at you. It says, this is not a book of illustrations. Each image is an argument. Each sentence is a threshold.
Which is a crucial, crucial warning. Because, in almost every book you or I have ever read, an image is just decorative, right?
Yeah, it just supports the text.
Exactly. If the text says the tree was tall, there's a picture of a tall tree.
Right.
But Claire's private key dictates that a visual form can only recur as consequence, contradiction, memory, or transformation. The images aren't illustrating the text. They are actively arguing with it. They are doing heavy lifting.
Let's look at some specific examples from the source material because I think they really bring this concept to life.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, statement 001 sets the tone immediately. The text reads, meaning appears when the observer accepts that attention changes whatever it touches, even before interpretation begins.
And how does the image argue with that?
Well, the image paired with it shows this dense field of straight rays, almost like lasers. But wherever the implied observer is supposedly positioned, those rays physically warp and bend around them. Yeah, it's a literal visual argument that you cannot be a passive witness. Just by looking at the page, your presence is interfering with the reality of the object.
Right, it's forcing the reader to realize that their attention is an active force. You alter what you observe simply by observing it.
Exactly. And then you get to statement 018, which talks about the diagnostic cage.
Oh, this one is fascinating.
It really is. The text warns that a label can restrict a person's future paths. And the image next to it isn't just a simple cage. It shows this fluid moving figure, and a rigid geometric label is literally snapping shut around it like a bear trap, cutting off its momentum.
And think about how applicable that is. Like, think about a label a boss or a partner or a teacher put on you 10 years ago.
Oh, totally.
You know, maybe a teacher told you, oh, you aren't a math person. Have you been shaping your entire career, your entire sense of self, just to fit inside the geometry of that cage?
I mean, I definitely have fake clay in my brain from third grade math, I'll tell you that much.
Right, we all do.
And the book just keeps hitting you with these. Statement 075 says that the visible world is partly an agreement we reach by deciding which absences no longer require explanation. And the image shows several human figures pointing animatedly at a visible object on the ground, completely ignoring this massive shaped void, like a literal GP hovering right in the middle of them.
Because they've agreed to ignore the gap, it's easier than trying to explain it.
Okay, but I have to stop here for a second.
Sure.
Because reading this does not sound like a fun Tuesday evening. It sounds less like reading a novel and more like walking into a modern art gallery, where the paintings are actually two-way mirrors secretly taking notes on your insecurities.
It is definitely intense.
Is it even ethical to manipulate a reader who just thought they were buying, like, a trendy coffee table book? It feels inherently hostile to me. It's like non-consensual psychoanalysis.
That's a fair reaction.
It's aggressively trying to trap you in your own blind spots.
Yeah. I completely understand why it feels hostile. It is deeply uncomfortable to have your blind spots pointed out like that, but I would actually argue it's deeply ethical. In fact, it's an act of profound respect for the reader.
Respect. How is tricking me into a psychological trap respectful?
Because it believes you are capable of escaping it.
Yeah.
Look at statement 077. The text says, read an encounter ethically. Neither person should demand the other's reduction as the price of closeness.
Okay.
And the image shows two distinct shapes approaching each other, but neither one compromises its borders. Neither becomes the container for the other. The book isn't trying to trap you at all. It's trying to free you from what Claire calls the tyranny of the average.
The tyranny of the average. What does that mean?
It means the comfort of inherited systems, you know, the official stories that force people into neat, reductive boxes. It wants you to acknowledge the GIP in your own perception, just like in her archive.
I think I do.
It is essentially saying to the reader, I am not going to reduce myself to make you comfortable, and I demand that you don't reduce yourself either.
Okay. I see the intention there. It's kind of like tough love from a book.
Exactly.
But even if I accept that the first read, you know, going through all 100 statements and arguing with 100 images, is this ethical, psychological wake-up call, that is still only the first layer.
Right. It goes deeper.
This is where it gets into almost Da Vinci Code territory for me. Because if the first read is about confronting your blind spots, the second read is where the book forces you to become an active investigator.
Yes. This is the fulfillment of that warning on the back cover, the promise that a, quote, second text is being assembled from the first. And the crazy thing is, the book tells you it's there, but it offers absolutely zero instructions on how to actually find it.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But because we have the leaked private construction key in our stack of sources, we know the master secret. We know the mechanism.
It's so clever.
It really is. Listen to this. Every single one of the 100 images features a very specific, subtle visual element, a 16-mark strip.
Which, on a casual read, just looks like a design choice, right? Maybe a minimalist graphic element just to tie the pages together visually.
Right, just a little bar with some tick marks on the edge of the illustration.
Yeah.
But it's not decorative at all. It is a highly precise physical pointer.
Yeah.
Think of the image on the right-hand page as having a tiny ruler embedded in it. One of those 16 marks on the strip is slightly bolder than the others. If you trace a perfectly straight horizontal line from that bold tick mark across the spine of the book to the text on the left-hand page, it physically intersects with exactly one word in the printed statement.
It acts like a stencil, almost, or a cipher wheel. The visual architecture of the image physically pinpoints the hidden word in the text.
Exactly. So if the bold mark is at position 3, the imaginary line hits the third word. If it's at position 9, it hits the 9th word. And when you, the reader, physically harvest these 100 individual words across the 100 pages, extracting them one by one, they string together to form the book's final hidden paragraph.
Wow.
It's a cohesive 100-word manifesto.
I mean, just the manual labor required from the reader to do that is astonishing. And that hidden text, the one you have to physically excavate yourself, is the ultimate thesis of the entire project.
Do we actually have the text of the manifesto?
We do. We do have it. It starts with the words, "Meaning begins where certainty loosens grip."
Oh, that's good.
And it goes on to talk about how memory rebuilds us from fragments, how power decides which shapes get to be called whole, and how we have to look at the excluded marks. And then it concludes with this absolute gut punch of a line. It says, "We are not solved by explanation. We become visible through encounter."
Wow. We are not solved by explanation. I mean, that is the antithesis of everything we are taught in modern society.
Right. We want an answer for everything.
Exactly. We want to be solved. We want the neat label, the diagnostic cage, the fake clay that makes us look perfectly whole to everyone else.
It is brilliant. And by forcing the reader to physically use a cipher to extract these fragments and build the final truth, hasn't Claire essentially forced the reader to do the exact same job she does at the Register X archive?
Yes.
You aren't just reading anymore, you are actively investigating. She absolutely has. And that proves her ultimate point. True knowledge, real understanding, isn't something that can just be handed to you neatly on a printed page.
Right. It's not passive.
Exactly. It requires work. It requires friction. By making you harvest those words, you are no longer the passive observer being acted upon. You have become the witness to the document.
Oh, I love that connection.
You are doing the painstaking work of reconstruction yourself. You are acknowledging the gaps and finding the hidden narrative.
Which brings us to the most important part of this entire deep dive. What does all of this mean for you listening right now?
Yeah, why does this matter?
Right. Why does a complex cryptographic puzzle book about modern art and Italian mystics matter to your Tuesday morning commute or your afternoon walk?
Because every single day you are relying on official stories. We all do. We rely on familiar patterns, easy categories, and quick labels to navigate our offices, our relationships, and our own identities.
It's efficient.
Exactly. It's how we survive the sheer volume of information in the modern world.
But in the name of that efficiency, we are constantly ignoring the GFPs. We are ignoring the marginalized details, the difficult people, the complex, messy situations that just don't fit perfectly into our neat mental diagrams.
We smooth over the rough edges with fake clay so we don't have to look at the void.
Exactly. The challenge here is to sit with uncertainty. Stop letting control impersonate understanding.
Right. Ask yourself, are you demanding a loved one's reduction as the price of closeness? Are you putting a colleague in a diagnostic cage just so their behavior makes sense to you?
It requires us to look at what our own mental frames are actively removing from our view of the world, which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over today.
Oh, this is a good one.
Imagine for a second that your own life is a text, a long, sprawling document of everything you've ever done. If someone were to take a master key, like the physical cipher in Claire's book, and highlight just one single word from every major conversation, every argument, every milestone you've ever experienced, what kind of hidden second text would your life story reveal?
It's a terrifying, but, completely necessary mirror to look into.
It really is. And more importantly, would that reconstructed hidden text look anything at all like the comfortable official story you've been telling yourself? Just remember, meaning appears when the observer accepts that attention changes whatever it touches. Until next time.